Hello teachers, and welcome back to lesson 3, part 3. Okay, let's jump straight into it. Here is a review of the content that we are supposed to be focusing on in this particular lesson, and let's move on to our activity. Now, in the previous clip, you saw this setup on the board, and it was a great way for our students to be able to substitute. Now, that grammar was actually quite short. It was about 5 to 10 minutes, because what I want to do is actually the main focus of this particular activity, and that is an extra sheet that I have made for my students. So here is the sheet. Now I will hold it up to my students. Maybe I will hand out one for all of the students first, and I will step them through. Now this is basically exactly what I've done on the whiteboard, but it's now in the sheet format. Now I'll say, all right, boys and girls, take a look at the sheet. Here is my sheet, and number 1, what's that? Shelf. Number 2, what's that? Bin. That's correct. Number 3, number 4, and make sure that we're now focused in on this particular thing. I will then ask one of my students who totally get it to come up to the front, and I'll give her a piece of paper as well. Now, what I'm going to do then for my students is I'll say, all right, boys and girls, for number 1, I'm going to draw a pencil, and maybe let's call it Abby. Okay, Abby the girl. She cannot see where I'm drawing the pencil. Maybe the pencil is on the shelf, near the shelf, under the shelf, or next to the shelf. It doesn't really matter. And I will then ask, and then I will draw an eraser as well. And then I will say to Abby, all right, Abby, for number 1, where is my pencil? And Abby knows that number 1 is shelf. So she say, your pencil is on the shelf. And I can respond, haha, no, it isn't. Then it's crossed. She got it wrong. I will then ask Abby the question. Abby will ask me. She will say, teacher, guess, where is my eraser? And then I will say, your eraser is on the shelf. Yes, it is, says Abby. Then I get a point for guessing correctly. Then we move on to number 2. And I will model that again with Abby to make sure that Abby understands, all of the students understand. And so let me just do it one more time. For number 2, I've drawn my eraser next to the bin, okay? For number 2, Abby can draw a glue stick, for example, and she's putting her glue stick in the bin, okay? So Abby will say, teacher, where is my glue stick? I will say, your glue stick is next to the bin. And then she says, haha, no, it isn't. It's in the bin. And I will say to Abby, guess, where is my eraser? Abby will say, your eraser is under the bin. Haha, no, it isn't. It's next to the bin, okay? And so with that conversation, the students will then understand what is needed of them. And I will then say, all right, boys and girls, now that you understand, please stand up. I will then hand out a piece of paper to everybody. And then basically what they're going to do is they're going to go off and practice in pairs. Now, if you are not confident that they really understand what's going on, or if you don't feel that they will concentrate or actually do the exercise properly, allow them 5 to 10 minutes to practice with each other in pair work. And then you bring the students up to the front of the classroom to have that conversation, and then you can give them points that way. Okay, once the students have understood what the activity is, no problem. Now we're going to clean up the board, and we're going to erase those things out the way, and then we're going to throw up the sentence pattern, and we're going to have 1, 2, 3, and 4. It might be a bit much for students at this level, so maybe you can have 1, 2, and 3, that's okay. And then in order to guide and push my students to use the vocabulary that I really want them to use, I will then draw the little pictures on the board, and then they have to substitute those pictures into the sentence pattern to make sure that they are in fact using that all properly. Okay, so there I've set up my board, and that's the way it is done. All right, boys and girls, let me just go back to that one. There we go. Okay, so that's that. And then the students will then just copy that down into the notebooks. If they're unable to finish, maybe they can finish that for homework. All right, and then of course, what's going to happen is you'll clean up the board, you wrap up, you make the scores, and then finally you can say goodbye. Teachers, I'm going to say goodbye as well. Thank you very much for joining me for lesson 3, and please subscribe, and that we'll have an update for the latest videos. Catch you in the next one. Goodbye.